Hey everyone, welcome to Sweet Love, an extension of Eating Love. Thank you so much for joining in to my video. Today I'll be making carrot cake, which is one of the most popular items in this cafe here, also in other cafes that I sell to. So let's get started and go to the kitchen and make the carrot cake. If you want to see more vegan gluten-free recipes, click on and subscribe below. So the first step with the carrot cake is to roast the pumpkin seeds. So we're going to roast it in the oven for, at home, you guys, it'll be 15 minutes at 150 degrees. So just spread it out on a tray, roast in the oven for 15 minutes. Next, we're going to measure the wet ingredients. So it will be the syrup, the cane sugar, and the grapeseed oil, the all extract. So first is the dehydrated cane juice sugar, 700 grams of this, which is it's about 3 cups. The amount that I'm measuring, what I'm making, is 24 pieces of carrot cake. So at home it'll be a lot less, but for this amount, 700 grams seems like a lot, and it looks like a lot of sugar, but it's really just 3 cups. So it's a lot, but no, really. For 24 pieces of carrot cake, it's a moderate amount. And for the maple syrup, we're adding 200 grams. And for the grapeseed oil, we're adding 500 grams. I just want like a teaspoon, extra. And we're gonna add the shredded carrots. I've already had this shredded, and this is older carrots, so I'm just going to use that first in, first out. Need 600 grams of this. And this is just recently shredded, like yesterday. It's a lot of carrot. It's very tiring, I'm not going to lie. Luckily, I don't have to do it all the time. My assistant can do it. With the raisins, 140 grams is about 3/4 cup. And then 150 grams of roasted pumpkin seeds. We're going to put this in the standing mixing bowl. We're going to mix it on low while we get our dry ingredients measured out. So next we're going to measure our double flour, 700 grams of that. And this is about 6 cups of flour. My own oat flour, just for economic reasons, it's just too expensive to buy on a wholesale scale. So I just make it, and the way I make it is just by blending it in a Vitamix blender. And I say Vitamix specifically because I feel that Vitamix is just a little more powerful, just better quality for commercial use. Otherwise, you'll definitely not be able to use your blender. Just using like any other brand. For home, of course, you can just buy your flour. 200 grams of coconut flour. My basic gluten-free flour mix consists of oat flour, coconut flour, and tapioca flour, and a little bit of xanthan gum. I use xanthan gum to help bind the cake, otherwise it will literally fall apart if you try to pick it up. And the amount that is in per slice of carrot cake that I sell, it's like half of a 1/4 teaspoon. So it may seem like a lot, and I just use 3 teaspoons of xanthan gum for 2 full sheets of cake that are like put on top. So 3 teaspoons isn't really, it's not a lot. Definitely a bit of controversy about using xanthan gum, but I'm not using, eggs and flour. It's like you gotta just compromise, honestly. My body's pretty sensitive, and I don't really feel any weirdness in my system personally. And like I said, it's like half of a 1/4 teaspoon, which would be an 1/8 of a teaspoon. So this is tapioca flour, it's 120 grams of tapioca flour. So now we're going to add 4 teaspoons of cinnamon. A teaspoon of lemon. A teaspoon of salt. A tablespoon of xanthan gum. There's, of course, 3 teaspoons. And last but certainly not least, this is a very important ingredient. And believe it or not, I have forgotten to add this ingredient more times than I would like to admit: baking soda. You need to have the baking soda. What happens with the baking soda is that it just doesn't rise. baking soda acts as a leavener, and so not only does it help to make it rise, but also helps to make it light and fluffy. And so when the baking soda is not added, it's denser. And it's not unusable, it's just dense and just not as fluffy, and the texture isn't the same, doesn't have the same color on it. So I have done this way too many times and just like finally spaced it out, just make sure it's not the baking soda. If there is anything to forget, it is not the baking soda. Stir it up with my larger offset. This is a pretty simple cake mix. You've got the wet ingredients, the carrots, the pumpkin seeds, the dry mix. Like, once everything is mixed, there isn't like a lot that goes into it. What does take the most time is just shredding the carrots. So I guess, like, of all the cakes that I have 3 gluten-free cakes that I make consistently for the cafes. This is the most time consuming, and only because of the shredding of carrots. Now let's get the coconut milk. I use this brand of coconut milk, Choco, and I really like this brand. I also use their coconut cream for the filling for the cake. And I have used quite a bit of different brands of coconut milk and coconut cream, and I find that this brand is the best. Obviously, you gotta use what's available to you, but if you can find the Choco, I highly recommend it, and would prefer it amongst other brands. I like to shake it up just so that the fat and the milk is combined. I'm just going to get this ready so that as soon as the dry ingredients are added, I can just add this in right away. So this is a good point to just put it on hold. We're going to bring this down. We're going to add the dry ingredients. So let's bring it back up. Mix it on low. So as soon as it's at this stage, you can add the coconut milk. So while this is going, I'm going to put the parchment paper on the sheet trays. I need to let this mix the batter for at least 2 minutes. 2 minutes is plenty. And the purpose of letting it mix for this long is so that the damping gums is activated and liquid. And it needs a bit of time to do that. Otherwise, it won't bind properly. And so when you bake it, or after it's been baked and cooled down, once you're ready to use it, if it's not activated and hasn't bound completely, then it's going to fall apart. It's like, gluten development. Finish, edges. So I'm not wasting. So it's looking pretty good. So this is a good point to stop. My test is essentially to see if the paddle attachment can stand up on its own. And it can. So this is when I take it out. Give it a little mix before. Make sure the bottom is fully incorporated, the edges are fully incorporated. Just fold it all in before I divide it. And I just eyeball the amount. I've done it enough times and feel pretty confident about it, so I'm going to stick with it. If you're not eyeballing, when you have a scale, it is about 2,070 grams per tray. Just going to spread it and I'll just offset. So we're going to make these cakes. I try to keep them as healthy as possible. I don't use white sugar in any of my gluten-free cakes. I just don't think it makes sense. And the way it looks when it's baked is exactly, when it goes in the oven, exactly how it looks when it comes out. So you've got like little things like that. This is exactly how it would come out, which is not pretty. So. And it's thick as a sweet potato vanilla. So I just fold the edges over. Otherwise, with the fan, I'll make it flow up into the cake. Let's take it to the for a total of 45 minutes. Just gonna bake in the oven, 350. The timer just went off for the carrot cake, and it's been in for 30 minutes, and I flipped it around for the first 30 minutes. So I'm gonna let it sit in the oven for another 15 minutes without the fan on. And the purpose of me letting it sit for another 15 minutes is so that it can like dehydrate. So you know how like most gluten-free cakes are like gummy, it's got that weird like texture. I personally don't like it, so I just want to let it like dry out a bit so it doesn't have that texture, and it's just a little bit more, you know, what we're used to with like a regular cake. So let's take a look at what it looks like. Now we're going to assemble and cut the carrot cake. So this here is the coconut cream filling. There's coconut cream and cane sugar, dehydrated cane sugar, and cornstarch. And so one of the main reasons why I use dehydrated cane sugar is because of the color. Ideally, I would like to use coconut sugar because it just has a lower glycemic index, and even more so I would love to use monk fruit sugar, but that shit's expensive, so I'd have to charge like $5 a cake wholesale, which is crazy, and I can't do that. So what's economical? I'm just going to put it in the food processor after it's been set. It's best to let it set overnight, but a minimum of 5 hours is good in like a really cold fridge. Otherwise, you need to let it sit overnight if it's not like a super cold fridge. So I use Trader Joe's brand coconut milk to help like mix it, just like a 1/4 cup. It's plenty. I also use this Trader Joe's milk for my vegan brioche bread, but it's like light and not like thick coconut milk. And then just like a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Vanilla, bean, and coconut is probably my favorite combination. Flavor profile wise, it's just like fuck, so good. So we're gonna let this go for a bit until it's like completely smooth. Just gonna scrape the edges, the sides, the stuff in here, get all of that. Let it mix a couple more times. It's getting smoother and smoother. You don't want to over mix it with the food processor because then fat will begin to break and it'll just become like meaty and not smooth. So just don't over mix it. And if you don't have a food processor, you can also just use like a mixing bowl with like a whisk attachment and then just whisk it with the coconut milk until it becomes fluffy and, you know, like this texture. It's like very pliable and fluffy, not as like firm as it was. If you're thinking, well, what's the point in adding cornstarch if you're going to like blend it and then add more milk to make it thin, so that when you combine, like you put it in the middle and you put it on top, when it sits overnight or it sits for like a minimum of like 2 hours, it'll firm up and it'll be easy to cut into pieces. So if you're just gonna like put this in the middle and put the pieces on top, you can't cut it right away. The coconut cream has to like firm up again. Before I put it on the carrot cake, I put some aside for to decorate the top of my carrot cakes that I use with some of the coconut cream, so that's too much. Coconut cream and some my fucking mixing bowl fell. Okay, so now that we have the cream mix and everything, so one of these is going to be on top, and I base which one goes on the bottom, which one goes on top, based on like how many raisins are on top, so it's like not so spotty, you know what I mean? So one looks a little bit more smooth, not so spotty. I would say this one would go on the bottom. Texture is a little bit rough, and so I think it's just best to just have this one on top. Just aesthetically, it looks better. So I just take it from underneath and then put it under. So this is, I'm going to do the same thing for this tray. And then under. So this is the one that's going on top. So I cut it in half first right away so that I don't forget which one goes on top. So I just measure. I measure everything. Like I don't take any chances of like eyeballing when it comes to this because I like my cuts to be consistent. The only thing I like to eyeball is like batters, just because that I can pretty much tell which one is a bit under versus over. But when it comes to like cutting things that are this large, it's really hard for me to tell. I'm selling these things, it needs to be consistent. So this is the top piece. Let's switch this over, and then here goes the cake. So let's get ready to put this on top of the bottom piece. It's a nice creamy texture. Tomorrow when I cut it, it'll be firmed up. Won't be as creamy as this. Be easier to cut. So now I just spread it with my pasta spatula. And this is the coconut cream. The coconut milk would just be thinner, and the cream is just helps to give it a more creamier, thicker texture. So, which is why I choose the coconut cream versus the milk, which is, you know, I would say pretty different. Fat content wise, it's significantly noticeable. I get a little bit obsessive about making it as flat as possible. At some point, you just gotta stop and trust that it's okay, and I trust that it's okay right now. We're going to bring this over here. So remember what I said about the xanthan gum being like fully established into the mixing to the batter. The xanthan gum hadn't like fully developed into the batter. This would like fall apart, which just happened before, like either there being not enough or just not mixing long enough. And you can see like it even cracking. Can you see that? Like it cracking a little bit. So there's enough xanthan gum that I can like pick it up and move it over, which is a good sign. You see how it's like even beginning to crack right there, like when I do that. So, you know, it's not a ton, like I said before, but it's enough to hold it together, which is what you want. You need it to hold together. Otherwise, like, what's the point of using it? It's going to, literally, it's going to fall apart, I promise you. And then I just clean up the edges. I have to trim the edges so that the outside looks pretty. And so that I'm not wasting cream, I just like push it back inside essentially. And so what I do here, I just trim it really quickly. I just trim. And so I'm getting 24 pieces. Again, I use a ruler for everything. It's super important for me. It's really irritating when something's like inconsistent. I don't like it. I think it's sloppy. And I'm not cutting it, I'm just pre-cutting it so that in the morning tomorrow when I come in to do my delivery, because I have to be here at 4:45, hopefully I'll actually get here at 4:45, but I need to just pre-cut it so that my morning isn't like hectic, I'm not running around, and I can just cut it straight down without having to do all of this, and it saves me a lot of time. So to be productive, I just do it now. Alright, there you go, 24 pieces. So now I'm just going to wrap that with plastic wrap, and it's ready to cut tomorrow morning. So these are the pumpkin seeds that I roasted earlier today. It's got a nice color to them, and they are yummy, crunchy. And I decorate this. This is the coconut cream. Just put a line down the middle. And just take 5 pepitas, pumpkin seeds, small, and there you go. You can either eat it with a fork or without a fork. You don't do it with a fork. I don't normally do it with a fork. It doesn't have that like that gumminess stuff. It's good. I don't normally eat this, I'll be honest. I always eat the ends. You eat it with a fork or without a fork. I just realized I barely ate today. I'm so hungry. I realized my mouth's not that wide. I'm very a fork. This is like my first meal of the day. Leaving it in for that extra 15 minutes to dry out, it really makes a difference. This is what I do with all my cakes: the vanilla, berry, chocolate cake, carrot cake. So if you guys enjoy this video, you want to see more vegan gluten-free recipes, click on the and subscribe below. Hope to see you next time.